When my husband's mother got sick, I took a leave from work to be her full-time caregiver. I cleaned her, fed her, stayed up all night. One morning, I overheard her whisper, "She's not worthy of you." And he replied, "I know. That's why I'm leaving her soon." My hands were shaking, but I kept smiling. That night, I packed their bags, left them with enough to start their new life. Then I went back to work and made sure the nursing bills came straight to him. I met Greg on a rainy Thursday night at a bar in Wilmington, North Carolina. I'd just gotten off a long shift at the hospital and stopped in for one drink. He was there with a couple of his real estate buddies. We made small talk at the bar, and he offered to buy me a drink. One turned into two. Then dinner the next week. A few months later, we were spending every weekend together. Greg was easy to like. He had this calm voice that made you feel like everything was fine, even when it wasn't. He wasn't flashy, but he was dependable. I liked that about him. I had dated enough emotionally unavailable men to know that steady can feel like a miracle. We got married in 2013. Simple wedding. Backyard, barbecue, homemade decorations. My family loved him. His mom, Marlene, not so much. She smiled in pictures and helped clean up, but I always felt a distance with her. Like I was some placeholder until someone better came along. She was polite but cold. When I'd say something at dinner, she'd change the subject or respond with a tight smile. Once, I heard her call me plain to her sister on the phone. I brushed it off. I figured she was just adjusting. Or maybe she was just lonely. Greg was her only child, and she lived alone in a house that was way too big for her after her husband died. Greg told me to ignore it. Said she was old-fashioned. I tried to see the good in her. We were married for 7 years before it all came crashing down. In the fall of 2019, Marlene tripped on her back porch and fractured her hip. It should have been a routine recovery, but she got a blood clot a week after surgery. Then pneumonia. Then early dementia signs. She was 72, but her health declined fast. 1 month, she was independent and sharp. The next, she was confused and falling out of bed. Greg cried when the doctor mentioned the word facility. He said his mother wasn't going to rot in some home surrounded by strangers. He begged me to help. "I can't do this alone," he said. I worked as a clinical coordinator at a hospital. I wasn't a nurse, but I knew how to handle charts, schedules, care plans. I could keep people alive and organized. So I agreed to take a leave from work and care for Marlene at home, our home. We moved her into the guest room. I rearranged everything, got her medical bed delivered, set up her oxygen, changed out her drawers for adult diapers, meal prepped, bought her soft clothes, set up a monitor so I could hear her at night. For the first few weeks, I didn't complain. She was my husband's mother. I loved him, so I did it for her. But it was hard. She screamed when I tried to wash her hair. She slapped my hand once when I offered her food. She complained about everything, the temperature, the texture of her oatmeal, the way I tucked her in. She never said thank you. Not once. Greg worked long hours. Said he had to make up for lost commissions. So I was alone with her most days. My friends stopped calling. My body ached from lifting her. My hair started thinning from the stress. Still, I told myself this was what love looked like. That marriage was sacrifice. Then came the morning everything changed. It was a Tuesday. I remember because trash pickup was late and I was annoyed about it. I was making oatmeal for Marlene when I realized I left her pills in the bathroom. I went to get them and stopped outside her room. The door was cracked. I heard her voice first. Weak and raspy. "She's not worthy of you," she whispered. Then Greg. "I know. That's why I'm leaving her soon." Silence. Just silence. My ears rang. I stood there frozen, holding a bottle of stool softener in my hand, my brain trying to make sense of what I'd just heard. They didn't know I was standing there. I heard him sigh. She made this little laugh like a cough, but smug. I turned and walked to the kitchen. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped a glass. It shattered. I didn't even clean it up right away. I just stared at the pieces. That night, I kissed him goodnight. Then I waited until they were both asleep. I went into the guest room and quietly packed Marlene's clothes, her meds, her documents. I even included the photo of her late husband she kept by the bed. Then I packed Greg's bag too. I wasn't angry. Not like in a movie. I was numb. I put the suitcases in the back of his car, left $300 in cash in an envelope on the front seat, and taped a list of assisted living facilities to Marlene's walker. I wrote a note that just said, "She's your responsibility now. You said it yourself." Then I drove to my sister's house. The next morning, I called my boss and told her I was ready to come back to work. I got reinstated 2 weeks later. I hired a lawyer that same week. I also made sure to have all the unpaid nursing bills, pharmacy charges, and home health aid services redirected to Greg. We were still married, which meant he was just as liable as I was. Maybe even more, now that I was working and he wasn't. He called 20 times. I didn't answer. I blocked his number. His voicemails started polite, then angry, then desperate. Too late. He made his choice. Now he could live with it. A week passed. Then 2. I didn't hear from Greg again. I figured he was too busy figuring out how to care for a mother who didn't even like being touched, let alone changed or bathed. Then I got a call from the home health company. "Hi, Mrs. Taylor, this is Janet from Coastal Senior Care. We're just calling to verify the billing address for Marlene's services. She no longer lives with me," I said flatly. There was silence on the line. Then she spoke again, carefully this time. "We were told to continue billing you. Your husband said you were still managing her care." Of course he did. I sent them an email with the legal separation paperwork. I copied my lawyer. I made it very clear I wasn't responsible for anything after the day I left. They would have to get their money from Greg. The next week, I got a certified letter from Greg's attorney. He was filing for divorce. Claimed I abandoned him and his mother. That I was emotionally unstable and unfit for marriage. He actually used the word dereliction in the letter. I smiled when I read that part. I didn't even know Greg knew words like that. I handed the letter to my lawyer and said, "I want him to feel this." She smiled. "We'll make sure he does." We filed a countersuit. Documented every day I was out of work. Every medical task I performed. Every prescription I paid for. We had receipts. We had pictures. I even had a spreadsheet of all the nights I woke up between 1 and 4 a.m. to help Marlene. Greg tried to paint himself as the victim. Said I cut him off emotionally. Said I exploited his grief. But I had evidence. Texts. Emails. Even a voicemail from him thanking me for keeping his mom alive. Then something unexpected happened. I got a call from one of Greg's coworkers. Someone I barely knew. A younger guy named Shane. "Hey, I know this is weird," he said, "but I think you should know something." "What?" "Greg's been seeing someone from the office. For months. Before Marlene got sick." I didn't say anything. "She was over at his condo last weekend," he continued. "He told everyone you were crazy and moved out. That you left because you couldn't handle the pressure." I thanked him and hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I printed out the condo listing I found under Greg's name, along with a screenshot of his public Instagram post, her hand in his, some cheesy caption about new beginnings. I sent both to my lawyer. About 3 weeks after I found out about Greg's new girlfriend, I got a letter in the mail from a debt collector. Apparently, Greg hadn't paid a dime for the in-home nursing services I'd stopped coordinating. Over $7,000 was now past due. Even though I wasn't legally responsible anymore, the account had still been listed in both our names because we were technically still married when the charges started. My lawyer filed a motion to remove me from the billing. She was quick and sharp. Didn't even blink. But that letter set something off in me. Greg wasn't just trying to move on. He was trying to rewrite everything. He wanted people to think I snapped under pressure, that I left a sick, helpless woman and ran off like some cold-hearted ghost. The lies didn't stop there. One night, my sister came into my room holding her phone. "You need to see this," she said. She showed me a post on Facebook from one of Greg's cousins. It was a long, dramatic update about how I walked out on family and how Greg was doing the best he could to care for his ailing mother. It ended with some inspirational quote about finding strength in betrayal. Comments flooded in. People praising Greg, calling him a devoted son, asking how they could help. One person even started a GoFundMe. I stared at the screen in silence. He was turning this into a sympathy tour, raising money off the woman who couldn't even stand the way I folded her towels. That's when I decided to take the gloves off. I didn't post anything public. That would have made it look like a war. And Greg always played the victim better when he had something to cry about. So I went quiet. But I got busy. First, I met with my HR department and asked to reinstate my full-time benefits retroactively, citing family medical leave. They approved it. Then I gave them permission to release all relevant records of my leave, exact dates, exact reason, documentation from my old emails, to my lawyer. Next, I went to our old pharmacy. I asked them to print every medication I'd ever picked up for Marlene under our insurance. Over 18 prescriptions. I kept the stack in a folder I labeled for the judge. Then came the best part. I contacted Marlene's old neurologist, the one Greg never liked because he talked too slow. I asked if they'd be willing to write a statement about who handled her care, who asked the questions during visits, who coordinated the prescriptions. He agreed. Said he always wondered why Greg never showed up. I had a full binder before the end of the month, but I wasn't done. I used my hospital access to connect with a home care worker named Rosa. She had come to the house twice during the month before I left, just to help with heavy lifting and hygiene care. Greg had barely spoken to her. But she remembered me. "I'm happy to talk if someone asks," she said. I added her to the witness list. Meanwhile, I found out Greg's girlfriend wasn't some new love. Her name was Valerie, and she had been in the background of Greg's work life for over a year. She had posted a now-deleted photo of their secret anniversary dinner back in July. That was 2 months before Marlene fell and 3 months before I left work to take care of her. He was cheating on me while I was planning my leave to help his mother. I sat in the dark that night, just thinking. I wasn't angry. Not in the usual sense. I was calm, focused, like something finally clicked into place. He left me to clean his mother's bedpans while he took another woman out for oysters and red wine. Now it was my turn. I didn't just want a divorce. I wanted the truth out. The divorce hearing was set for early March. Cold wind outside, gray sky, and Greg showed up in a navy suit that didn't quite fit anymore. He looked tired. His new girlfriend wasn't there. But his mother was, in a wheelchair, thin and slumped, eyes dull. I felt nothing looking at her. Greg tried to smile at me like we were two old friends just sorting things out. I didn't smile back. We had been married almost 10 years. Now we were strangers sitting on opposite sides of a courtroom, guarded by lawyers. Greg's attorney opened with all the same garbage he'd been spinning for months. My client was abandoned during a time of extreme emotional hardship. His wife left not only him, but also his severely ill mother. She neglected her duties as a spouse, my lawyer cut in like a blade. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit Exhibits A through L." She passed the judge my binder. Hospital leave records, caregiving logs, prescription receipts, even the photos of Marlene's bedroom we'd turned into a care station. Mrs. Taylor provided unpaid, around-the-clock care for over 6 months, she said, her voice sharp and even. She gave up her income, her health benefits, and her mental health in order to serve a woman who, by multiple accounts, treated her with contempt. Greg shifted in his chair. His lawyer tried to redirect. claimed emotional abandonment, said I checked out of the marriage long before I walked out. That's when Rosa stepped in. She testified about the home visits, the way I'd clean and lift and feed Marlene while Greg ran errands or took calls that somehow lasted the whole day. Then the neurologist's statement was read aloud. Mrs. Taylor was present at every appointment. She asked the questions. She took notes. Her husband rarely participated in follow-up care. Greg looked like he wanted to melt through the floor. Then came the final blow. I submitted screen captures of Valerie's anniversary post from July. Her hand in his. The caption, "A year of secret smiles. Worth every second." The date was crystal clear. My lawyer leaned forward. This wasn't a marriage in crisis. This was a husband exploiting his wife's labor while he carried on an affair. She didn't leave a family, she escaped a setup. The courtroom went quiet. Greg didn't say a word. The judge ruled in my favor. I wasn't just granted the divorce, I was awarded a full reimbursement for all out-of-pocket medical expenses. Greg had to pay half my lost wages from the 6 months I was on leave. The debt collectors? Gone. All redirected to him. But the biggest part? Marlene's care. From that day forward, Greg was listed as her sole guardian. No shared insurance. No emergency contact but him. She was all his now. A few days later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Valerie. "You got what you wanted. You can stop now." I didn't reply. I just blocked the number. Weeks passed. My hair started growing back. I started sleeping again. I picked up some weekend shifts to get my rhythm back. Slowly, I began to feel like a person again. One night, I saw Greg at the grocery store. He was pushing a cart with a few frozen meals, and Marlene was sitting in it sideways like a child. Her head lolled to the side. He looked at me. I looked at him. He said nothing. Neither did I. But inside, I thought, you said I wasn't worthy. Now you're stuck with the person who made your life hell. And I'm free. Did I make mistakes? Yes. I stayed too long. I gave too much. I didn't speak up when I should have. I let myself become small in a life that was never meant to hold me. But I fixed that. And I don't owe anyone a thing anymore.